Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm Teodros from Automotive Technology Department. Today I'll try to present about clutch system servicing, which is week 4 part 2 video. In last video we was try to see about the clutch system symptoms and tests performed on the clutch systems. And today we will try to cover clutch system servicing, which includes adjusting clutch pedal free play, bleeding hydraulic clutch system, overhauling the clutch system, which includes removal and inspection of the system, and at last clutch system for heavy duty vehicle. Clutch system servicing, which typically includes performing inspection, preventive maintenance, and overhauling when it's necessary. In the overhauling process, mostly we will done to replace the pressure plate, disc, and bearing, or in some case, when we say bearing, release or pilot bearing or throwout bearing. In the first part, when we come to the adjustment or adjusting of clutch pedal free play, most of the time this adjustment is done in different areas. Especially or specifically in the clutch system, two adjustments are done in the pedal or on the clutch pedal. In this clutch pedal we can adjust the pedal height and the pedal free play. To adjust the pedal height or to measure initially the pedal height, and we must remove any rubbers from the pedal, and we must start from the asphalt sheet. Even some specification give us from, it says start from the asphalt sheet, and we can measure 90 degree with the alignment of the pedal. Then if the height is too much or lower, we can use this pedal stopper bolt and lock nut. By loosening this lock nut, we can simply adjust the pedal height by turning clockwise and counterclockwise to increase and decrease the pedal height. Then the next one is the pedal free play. The free play means it's the distance between, if you observe, the initial height and the pedal position that it starts actuating or transferring driver effort to the pressure plate assembly or to the pressure plate spring, which means the free space or the free gap in between this distance we call pedal free play. And this pedal free play can be adjusted by means of lock nut. As you observe here, we have lock nut here and push rod. The lock nut which keeps the adjusted position or the adjustment in position, while the push rod used for increasing and decreasing this space. So when this space will be increased, or when the bolt will become longer, the pedal free play will be very lower. And when we tighten and when the bolt or the push rod length will be lower, the pedal free play will be higher. So we can adjust in this manner. In some clutch, we have a self-adjusting clutch by adding some mechanism like detent cable groove and Powell mechanism. When the driver depresses the clutch pedal, it will drag the cable towards this side. So if the adjustment is far, always when we depress the clutch pedal, this will be dragged. But if it's normal anymore, it cannot drag the clutch cable. So it can be adjusted automatically without any interference of technicians. Now let me give you some question over here. What is the target of free play? If you observe, in different areas we will have free play in mechanical or hydraulic clutch system. Maybe we will obtain this in brake system, in clutch system, even in string also we have, but in the clutch and brake system it's similar. So this free play means which ensures that there is not any interference or contact between two parts while the driver release the clutch pedal, because If the driver releases the clutch pedal, the pressure plate spring must be free from any force. So if the spring is free from any force, it easily transfer the power without any slippage. The second issue is bleeding the hydraulic clutch system. Simply, this bleeding is it's a process of removing air from the system, because if air and liquid are mixed together, they cannot effective power transmitting mechanism. So the driver effort cannot transmit to the wheel cylinder because the air is simply compressible and the fluid is incompressible. If we mix together, most of the time our pedal will feel sponge feeling and it doesn't transfer. So to remove this one, sometimes we can use by means of mechanically, or we will have some pump or vacuum type bleeding devices. So by using this one, we can remove air from the system to assure proper power transmission. The third issue will concern on overhauling the clutch system. Just when adjustment or repair of linkage fails to remedial problem with the clutch must be removed, and inspection we call this one overhauling the clutch system. So initially we will try it on the vehicle adjustment, then if that cannot be fixed with this one, the parts should disassembled as you observe here, and the system can be inspected individually by different mechanisms. During overhauling the clutch system, the initial phase is removal. Of course, I want to put some remark on this part. The first thing is, obviously, when we remove clutch, it's better to use some transmission jack, because during working on the clutch removal process, supporting the clutch, the gearbox is the hardest work for the technician, so it's better if we use transmission jack. And then it's better to follow proper procedure. We need to consider in some area we will get some snap rings, we must consider that one. And the critical thing that I expressed before on the jerking effect, if you remember the mismatch of component. Always when we remove, or before removing the clutch parts, it's better to put match mark to prevent any misalignment between parts, so which will lead to vibration during normal operation. In the next part, I will focus on the inspections. For example, if you observe, the friction disc will be inspected for like rebate depths will be measured by caliper. In this part, we need to consider that. For example, if you observe this one, this will be measured by in the bottom part, and this rebate will be measured by this part, and we can use a vernier caliper simply to measure the depths or the tail part of. So don't forget to measure in two parts, two rebates, because this rebates for this side and the bottom rebate is measured by this. So if you measure this one, maybe it will mislead you. In the next part, we will also try to check inspection or run out of the clutch disc by mounting simply on the input shaft, and by mounting or assembling the dial indicator. Simply we can measure by simply rotating. We can observe if there is some wobble or run out effect. By the way, this effect which leads to chattering sound while we engage and disengage the parts. In the next part, we can check the throughout bearing, the pilot bearing or bushing here. So if you observe, this bushing supports the input shaft of the gearbox, so it must be smooth and the clearance must be fit properly. If this clearance is misaligned, it leads to again the misalignment between the engine and the gearbox. So if this bushing is worn, we can replace with new. In the next part, we can check the flywheel, the pressure plate release finger, and the throat bearing. By the way, this throat bearing, as I expressed in the parts, it helps to make smooth rotation between the stationary fork and the rotating pressure plate assembly. So if this one is stacked, easily the release finger or arm in the coil spring type pressure plate assembly, they worn easily, and we heard noisy sound. So we need to check this part by pressing and rotating clockwise and clockwise, counterclockwise. If there is some scoring sound, we should replace this one. In the next part, we can check the worn part of the release finger, the depths, as you observe here. If it's worn, means easily we should replace this part, because if this part is worn, instead of transferring the reaction force for releasing the clutch, it will bend and break out. So we should measure with vernier caliper. The next part is we should inspect flywheel for runout or measure runout of flywheel, because this part is the contact surface for the pressure plate, the friction disc. If it will have runout problem, mostly caused by overheating effect, we suffer, or we heard wobbling or pulsating sound, chattering effect. So we should consider this one, and if the runout is beyond, we must take some measure according to the specification. The next part in the new thing is inspecting flywheel damper rotational free play. To make clear this one, let me show you one animation to make it clear for you. If you observe this animation, it indicates that the operation of IC engine, 4-cylinder engine, it will have 4 vibration during 4 stroke. In the previous engine, it will try to manage by harmonic balancer or torsional spring, but the torsional spring alone cannot make this one. So now recently in vehicle they use dual mass flywheel, which means if you observe this graph simply, this one uses the dual mass flywheel, so it will the smooth rotation will transfer from the engine to the gearbox, but in this case the engine vibration automatically pass to the gearbox. So to minimize this one, in recent latest vehicle they use dual mass flywheel. When we see the concept or operation of dual mass flywheel, they will separate the flywheel into 2 parts. If you observe this video, there is one part of flywheel and is the other. At the center they will supported by bearing, and when there is imbalance in between it, they are connected by spring, and this spring will as you observe here, this spring is mounted in flange, and when sudden rotation will happen, this spring will absorb and it prevents the transmission of this vibration to the gearbox. So it will assist the torsional spring of the pressure plate assembly, which is the smart thing for a smoother operation. So as you observe, this is the basic construction. If you observe here the angle, now let's come to my point. When we see my point, there is a primary and secondary flywheel or dual mass flywheel. So in our case also, by fixing the primary flywheel and having bolt, by putting some match mark, we will need to try to rotate to check whether the spring is functional or not, and we will measure this angle. By measuring that angle, we can decide that the flywheel is functional or not. So this is one part. The last part after the inspection will be installation. During installation process, we must consider the match mark, the position of pressure, the friction disc. We must use some SST, and we must measure the distance of release finger to check the appropriate disc is used. And we must check also, or we must lubricate the required parts. If you see, they use mostly special lubricant, because if this lubricant melts, it will contaminate the flywheel and the friction disc, which leads for slippage. The next part is clutch system for heavy duty vehicle. Simply the clutch system for heavy duty vehicle is similar with the previous type of clutch, which is the clutch system for light duty vehicle. Only the difference is it uses multi-coil spring pressure plate assembly to have better clamping force, and this coil spring type or multiple coil spring type clutch requires too much force from the driver, so the system will make air assisted release mechanism is used to reduce driver effort and to increase the torque transmission or frictional surface area of the clutch disc. It uses multiple clutch, like 1 disc, 2 and 3 according to the requirement. This is the basic difference. When we see the difference, air assisted clutch system reduces clutch pedal effort approximately around 20%, you see, which means it requires less pedal effort, and with less travel it actuates too much force because it only opens the air way, so it reduces the stress of the driver, and it reduces the leg strain and increase the comfort of the driver. When you see the structure, simply it uses hydraulic, pneumatic system and actuation cylinder. When the driver depresses the pedal, simply he will open the passage to the piston, and the piston automatically converts to the force which actuate on the pressure plate assembly during disengagement, and during engagement the air will be released from the system when the pedal move, and simply the clamping force will be handled by the pressure plate assembly. When we come to the summary of all this chapter, clutch is the first drivetrain component which transfer power from the engine to the gearbox. Clutch parts construction consider like torsional vibration, engagement effect, and this effect will be reduce the probability of torsional by means of vibration torsional spring in dual mass flywheel system. And the next one, service life can be vary greatly depend on the traffic condition and the driving technique. And if the clutch system indicates some malfunction, a technician must start from simple to complex repair, like on the vehicle test, check, adjustment, and proceed to the removal for the sake of inspection of part. Simply by recognizing common clutch symptoms, it's better to perform tests and verify the systems and before performing servicing. So the indicators are critical for technicians. On the other hand, most design of the clutch for heavy duty and light duty is almost the same, but in some aspect, to increase the transmission of torque, it will use multiple clutch disc, and to reduce the driver effort, it uses air assisted mechanism. That is the only to increase the clamping force, it uses multiple coil spring. That is the only difference for this system. Thank you for your attention. I will always appreciate your patterns, and don't forget to ask any question if you have any confusion on this part. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice time.